Company is making something so insane, the loneliest of gamers out there will never need to find a girlfriend ever again.
Thank
In
God.
what seems like a Black Mirror episode, a company by the name of Game Lady is making life-size
Game Lady, that's good.
dolls of your favorite video game characters,
Smart.
where everything can be customized.
Lately, I've been seeing groups like Collective Shout try as hard as they can to censor the internet. One of the most concerning parts about this is how quick Visa and MasterCard were to support them. Now we're seeing many states push for age verification laws, and as I watch these things unfold, I just wondered to myself, how did they get so powerful? And when I started reading articles about them, I found out that one of the first things that they targeted were sex dolls, because they knew that such a thing was taboo. And throughout this whole situation, I haven't heard many people question it. So today I'll be unpacking some of those arguments and seeing how well they hold up. The first point I'm going to address is that sex dolls cause higher sexual aggression and encourage illegal or questionable fantasies. The most empirical studies that I've found on the subject matter show that this is simply not true. Most of the studies that I've looked at show that doll owners have higher introspection than the average person. They also show that doll owners show the same or less sexual aggression than the average man. On the other hand, doll owners are more likely to view women as unknowable, have lower sexual self-esteem, and more likely to view women as objects. I think the main reason for this is simply because they're older on average, so it makes sense that they would view reality more like an older person would. I don't think them viewing women as objects is innate to their personality or inbuilt thought patterns. In my experience, doll owners seem to be more likely to be neurodivergent. The next argument I'm going to address is that some religions argue that sex dolls are unnatural or spiritually harmful, violating principles of sacred sexuality, procreation, and divine models. Since Christianity is one of, if not the biggest religions in the United States, I'll be using that as a reference point. Using a sex doll wouldn't be wrong according to the Bible, because using one is just another form of masturbation, and masturbation is not explicitly prohibited in the Bible. Most of the time, when people are telling you that it is wrong, they're referring to the story of Conan, Genesis 38, 9 through 10. This is not about masturbation, but rather about refusing to fulfill his duty to impregnate his brother's widow. Many Christians assume masturbation is sinful due to broader teachings on lustful thoughts, sexual purity and self-control, avoidance of idolatry, and self-worship. But realistically, this is meant to apply to real people, not dolls. It's better to think of sex and masturbation as something that you do in moderation, rather than constantly framing them as wrong. Christians will also tell you that it's wrong because they say it crosses the line into adultery. In the Bible, that means you're worshiping anything other than the one true God. And worshiping means to acknowledge God's greatness through praise, offer oneself as a sacrifice, and living a life in gratitude and service to Him. The problem with that is that most doll owners are not praying to their dolls, or living a life of service to their dolls. Most of them are just using their dolls, watching TV with them, or sleeping next to them, and cleaning them as needed, but they're not going to sacrifice themselves for their dolls, so it doesn't fit the definition of worship. Some Christians say that the definition of worship is to simply give anything more attention than God. The problem with this is that most of what you do in your life would fall under adultery by this definition. It's unfair to act like as if sex dolls are a significantly greater threat to your salvation than your phone or anything else that you enjoy. I personally think that that's just a bad definition. Another claim that I hear people make about these dolls is that the more human-like and accessible they become, the more society may undervalue real women, especially in contexts where women are already objectified. Sex dolls won't cause society to undervalue women because the main purpose of sex is reproduction, and dolls can't do that, never will be able to. They also can't perform any of the basic tasks that most people can do, and if it was able to, it wouldn't be a sex doll anymore. It'd be a sex bot. And if any able-bodied person especially a woman, is being undermined by the existence of sex dolls, then they should be doing more to make themselves useful to society. Some people claim that the doll industry primarily caters to male fantasies, reflecting and reinforcing a patriarchal view of women as passive objects of play. The first problem I have with this claim is that it assumes all men view women as objects, when that's obviously not true within the context of the Western world. The second problem I have with this claim is that it's basically saying that catering to the male fantasy is inherently bad, when the companies that make these products need to make money. And if men are primarily buying these products, then they have to market themselves to that audience, or else they'll go out of business. Telling a sex doll company they shouldn't cater to men is like telling a makeup company that they shouldn't cater to women. It just doesn't really make sense. A lot of the people who make this argument also say that sex dolls promote the idea that women are objects to be used for pleasure, reducing them down to body parts or submissive roles. I don't think that the people making this argument are trying to be fair to sex dolls at all, given the fact that they also promote dildos without a second thought, which would do the same thing to men. By their logic, while it may be true that doll owners are more likely to view women as objects, we don't know to what degree. We also don't know the cause and effect of this mindset. That means we don't know if dolls cause these men to be more likely to objectify women or not. So I don't think we should jump to conclusions and just assume that this is caused by the doll, because it's possible that this is caused by genetic or cultural factors. Another claim that I hear people make against dolls is that some users may develop an unhealthy attachment or even delusional relationship with the doll. But many people already have unnatural attachments to objects. Everyone I know panics or gets anxious when they lose their phone. Many call their cars baby or refer to them as he or she. And the children, even adults, often maintain lifelong emotional attachments to teddy bears and plush toys. Almost everyone has keepsakes like a deceased relative's sweater or a wedding ring. These attachments aren't pathological, simply a byproduct of human brain's capacity for projection, meaning thinking, and symbolic thought. Sex toys do not produce a new category of attachment. Dolls are more intimate objects and inherently more anthropomorphic, but still not unique in provoking emotional projection, unless someone draws an arbitrary line between sexual or human shaped objects. Another argument that people make against dolls is that widespread use might shift cultural values around love, sex, and relationships, making detachment or fantasy. Dolls can't do that because the sexual revolution of the 1960s already dramatically redefined intimacy norms, breaking from traditional models like monogamous marriage as the sole legitimate sexual outlet, sex solely for reproduction, strict gender roles in relationships, shame around masturbation, premarital sex, and non-normative desires. These changes open the door to casual sex, pornography, sex positivity, and body autonomy, and the rise of individualistic sexual fulfillment over societal duty. So people say that sex dolls encourage isolation, but most of the people who have interacted with a large number of doll owners say that one-third are married, and most doll owners have had sexual experience with women on some level. Realistically, there are many factors that are causing people to be more isolated. The structure of the modern world itself encourages isolation and avoidance far more profoundly than sex dolls ever could. Sociologist Ray Oldenburg coined the term third places to describe informal gathering spaces outside of home and work, like cafes, diners, pubs, libraries, bookstores, parks, and barbershops. But today, many of those places have vanished or been devalued. Coffee shops are now laptop workspaces, not social hubs. Fast food spots offer no seating or social interaction. Gentrification and zoning laws squeeze out public commons in favor of profit per square inch foot chains, so people have fewer organic, low pressure places to meet, talk, and belong, which is far more isolating than any personal choice to use a doll. Modern cities, especially in the United States, are built for cars, not people, with wide roads, massive parking lots, and few sidewalks, no spontaneous human encounters, unsafe or hostile environments for walking or lingering. This creates physically isolating landscapes where you go from your garage to your car to the store and home without ever interacting with people in any meaningful way. In most cases, a doll in someone's room is not what's stopping them from socializing. The fact that there is almost nowhere welcoming to go is a greater contributing factor. Services like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, and others like it are designed to remove the need for human interaction. No need to speak to a cashier, no need to dine in public, no need to browse with others. These apps are addictive because they fit the dominant values of convenience, efficiency, and risk avoidance, but they further erode social rituals like eating together, shopping in local markets, casual encounters with neighbors or strangers. More and more restaurants today offer drive-through only or delivery only service and provide no indoor or outdoor seating. Generally, these spaces are designed for fast turnover rather than lingering. This means people don't sit and talk to others, and they don't build community or familiarity with staff or patrons. It's systematic, not personal. These dolls don't cause this alienation. Phones, texts, social media, and dating apps have reduced face to face time made conversations in synchronous and transactional, replaced with rich, messy physical human contact with curated, efficient, low risk messaging. Even when we connect, we are often doing so disembodied with avatars. Another argument that people make against dolls is that mimicking people violates the idea of human uniqueness, identity, dignity, and especially with AI or realistic faces. Human beings are not special in nature because there is no one thing that humans can do that hasn't been done in the animal kingdom before that at some capacity. Elephants, dolphins, great apes, magpies, and some octopus pass the versions of the mirror test, implying a sense of self or consciousness. So you can't really say consciousness is unique to humans. The same part of the brain that's responsible for your basic emotions is shared between all mammals. Chimps, gorillas, orangutans all have opposable thumbs. Humans walk fully upright, but so do birds, some dinosaurs, and flightless birds. Crows and ravens can solve multiple step puzzles, plan ahead, and use tools adaptively. Dolphins and elephants show reasoning, cooperation, and memory that rivals or exceeds that of young humans. Octopus escape enclosures, open jars, and use camouflage with almost alien intelligence. Chimpanzees use sticks to fish for termites, stones to crack nuts. Sea otters use rocks to break open shellfish. Crows create hooks from twigs to retrieve food. Even some insects like ants and wasps use materials from the environment in structured ways. Prairie dogs have different alarm calls for predators, and parrots can learn and apply human words in context. Humanity is not special, humanity is rare. Another claim that I've seen people make is that the doll industry operates in a legal gray zone, lacking any proper customer protections, safety standards, or ethical oversight. Realistically, there's not really much we can do about this because China is a low trust society where police don't really enforce the law for most of the year. So you have no way to stop these Chinese workers from working 6 months without pay or being forced into mandatory unpaid overtime. You also can't stop these companies from making dolls that look like celebrities or someone's ex or even a video game character because China does not have strong laws around intellectual property. Ethical oversight sounds good in theory, but in practice, companies would be put into positions where they would have to listen to people who, in all likelihood, are going to actively try to sabotage their business. If you want an example, look no further than what Sweet Baby Inc. did to Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, or anything that has been touched by DEI or ESG, or all the entertainment that's been censored in China. And you would realize that that never goes well. In China, you could get a situation where some random guy is just signing off on everything and not really checking to see if it's ethical or not. And while we don't have the same level of customer protection as someone buying more common products would, there's still many vendors in the United States that we can purchase from. And if anything goes wrong or they scam us, they can be held responsible. In truth, sex doll owners just aren't that drastically different from the average guy. So a lot of the negative feelings that are being directed at them are just unwarranted. I think the mythology of our society is the main thing that's responsible for this. I think people have let movies like Lars and the Real Girl, Her, or Companion uh, influence their opinion a little too much. That's all I have to say about it for now.